in yesterday's class, we started a discussion on the building blocks of our Apex programming. So we have like a couple of building blocks like data types, variables, operators, output statements, conditional statements, iterative statements, arrays. So we are going to discuss in detail about all of these building blocks along with a few examples, a sample line of codes or code snippets in between, so wherever required, right? Okay, so we started our data types. So data type, so Apex is like a tightly coupled programming language where you need to define a variable before it is used. Okay, so yes, as part of data types, we have two types of data types, that is primitive data types and subject data types. So primitive data types are the basic data types like in any other programming language. Okay. So in that we were discussing about, right? So we discussed what is a string data type. Okay. So in primitive, we have all this basic data types, which are, similar to any other data types in any all other programming languages. Okay. So string, so it will allow us to hold the characters and these string data type, it holds, so we need to specify between a single quote and it holds the character values or alphanumeric values. And we also discussed like it will hold 1 byte of memory. So we also discussed, so most of our So most of our data types which we discussed as part of um, configuration, they are matching to our string data types. So that we have discussed, right? Let's take email, let's take uh, text, text area rich, text area long. So all these are matching, we can map them to our string data type, okay? So coming to the next one we have discussed is Boolean. So it's Boolean, it holds true or false. And in our configuration, the checkbox is going to refer this value because when a checkbox is ticked, it's true. And if it is not ticked, it's false. So if you ask me, is the Boolean also going to hold some memory? Yes, it's going to hold 1 bit of memory, not even a byte. So 1 or 0, it's going to hold. Okay, so 1 indicates it's true and 0 indicates it's false. Okay, so the next one is ID. So we discussed that it holds the either a 15-digit or 18-digit character code, which is an again alphanumeric, and it holds the record ID, right? So we were discussing, right? So the record ID is the main thing in our data types. So even in our the fields in the configuration, the relationship type fields, so those hold the actual record ID value that uniquely identifies each record. Okay. So each ID field, owner, lookup relation, master detail relationship field, hierarchical, external, all this will reference to our ID data type. Okay, right? So next coming to our date. So yeah, date, it allows us to store the data values inside the variable in the form of MMDDYYYY format. So each date field inside the object will reference date data type. So it's a separate data type. So if you see in our uh, configuration, there is a data type called date. allows users to enter a date or pick a date from the pop-up calendar. So we will have the calendar displayed and we can select the date also. So that is there. So it's by default, it holds the fields like MMDD YYYY format. Okay, it's not DDMM. Okay, you need to remember that. So that's the format followed here. And yeah, coming to the next one, time, it holds to store the time values, which can be either 12-hour format or 24-hour format. So yes, so when you say 24-hour format, if you go to any railway system, railway ticketing system online or the flight ticketing systems, so all of them are following the 24-hour time format, right? Okay, so that's where we are going to use this. It allows the users to enter a local time, for example, 240 or 1440. Okay, so in 12-hour format, 24-hour format. So it can hold either hours, minutes, seconds, and hours, minutes, seconds, milliseconds also, as you can see. So we can hold based on our requirement for, let's say, I have to keep an audit trail of my records or the history tracking of my records. So in that case, I would go ahead and use this time format in the seconds also. I don't need milliseconds, but I need at least seconds. So within seconds, some actions may happen, right? So that's where we make use of this kind of fields in our programming also. Okay. So the other one is date time. It allows us to store both date, timestamp value inside the variable. Each date time field will reference the date time data type by default. So yes, if you see here, okay, so allows users to enter date and time and pick a new pop-up calendar. Okay, so we can pick up the calendar based on that. It will allow us. So let's go to any one of the express logistics and transports, one of the account record, and add the. Okay, in the details, you will have this created by. So you can see the timestamp also, right? Created by and last modified by. So these two fields are default fields which you will have these fields by default. And these are of type date time. Okay, so you can see the date and time. So the time format is in hours, minutes, that's it. And date format, you can see it, right? Okay, so this is where you can see the date time usage. Okay, so next coming to our favorite type of data type, that is integer. So it allows us to store numerical values inside a variable without any decimal digits. So each integer will occupy like 4 bytes of memory, and we can store the values between the range 2 power minus 2 power 31 to plus 2 power 31 minus 1. So yeah, that's the range where we can store the values. It's a huge range. And so can you tell me like which fields are referencing our, where are we? Yeah. So integer field, which fields are referencing? Can you guess? So number is one by the name itself. Any other fields?
Phone.
Sorry?
Phone. Phone.
Phone, not exactly. So we are using the, yeah, it depends on the cases again. So if we are using the country codes and all for displaying the complete phone number, we are going with the string. Any others you can think of?
Percentage.
Yes, percentage, yes. Percentage will also hold the number, but it differs also, okay, sometimes. So percentage, even it can, integer can reference the percentage also. Yes. Okay. So currency, number, currency, and percentage. So these are all the fields which are referencing our integer. And here, if you see currency and percent, they can also reference to some other data type which we'll be discussing. Okay, but this can be also integers. Okay, so it can refer to different types, right? So yes. So next is our long. So each long data type allows us to store larger integer values, which can range from -2 power 63 to +2 power 63 minus 1. So each long data type will occupy 8 bytes of memory. Okay. And let's say the annual revenue. So it can be hundreds of thousands of crores also sometimes. So if we need to maintain that field, maybe I need to use sometimes integer, sometimes log also, right? So for a bigger range, we are using the long data type. And the other one, next one is decimal. It allows us to store numerical values with decimal digits. So here, decimal, which field you can reference?
Same number.
Okay. Yeah. Any others?
Percentage is
Decimal.
there.
Yeah. Percentage. Correct. So percentage can have decimal values also. So that's where we reference percentage also in the in our decimal format. Okay. So what about, so this decimal format, usually it supports like maximum like 2 digits, right? So let's go ahead and see how it works. So let me select, you told percentage, right? Right. We can give the length of the number as well as the decimal values. How many decimal values we want, we can give it, right? Yes. So this one is also referring to the decimal data type. So what about in case I want to measure some weights? So in that case, we have another data type called as uh, double. So it stores more number of more number of decimal digits. Okay. So usually percentage we give at maximum two digits as decimal digits. But if we want more digits, maybe we can go ahead with the double data type. So that's one of the data type. It can also reference to percentage, and it can also refers to the weight kind of thing. Okay, so where we need more decimal digits. So right, so the long, so we integer, long, decimal, double. So these are the, again, basic data types which you would be having it in any other type of programming languages as well. Okay, so the next one is blob data type. Yep. Okay, so we were talking about integer, long, decimal, and double. And then comes our blob data type. Blob means binary large objects. So these are used to store large objects like our audio file, video file, picture, any kind of PDF files, text documents, Word documents. So anything can be stored, notepad. Yep. So anything can be stored using our binary large object data types. So each document object, attachment object, static resource, right? So in our, as part of Classic, we were having this object called document object. Okay, but in Classic, in Lightning, we don't have this document object. So anything we store, it's going to be any document we need to upload, it's going to be stored under documents objects. But in Lightning, we don't have document object. We have something called static resource where we can have our documents and anything to be uploaded. So let's take an example of our, right. So same account, Express Logistics and Transport account. Here, if you come down here, you see there's something called notes and attachments, right? So we can upload some attachments here, okay? And that is going to be of data type blob. So Salesforce is going to treat that kind of data type as blob. So blob, when I say it's a binary large object type, and see how Salesforce is going to store this data type, this value of this data type. It's not going to store your file which you have uploaded, the audio or video or text or PDF or Word. It's not going to store that file itself. It's going to convert that file into binary format, and then it's going to store the binary values. Okay. So whenever you need to retrieve again, it is going to convert. Yeah. We have some, while doing programming, we have some encoders like base64 encoder or something like that, which are going to, convert our file, attachment file into binary format and back and forth. Okay. So it can do both. So that's where we have, a function for base64. Yeah, we can convert that. So it's going to store the binary values in the database. Okay. So we don't have that option to, store the attachment as it is on our database. We don't have that option in Salesforce. So it's going to convert into binary values, and then we are going to store it. Okay. So yeah, each document object, attachment object, static resource will reference to blob data type. Yeah. So document in Classic, attachment and static resources in Lightning. And yeah, while doing the Lightning web components, we would be dealing with the static resources, making use of a file called .svg files. Yeah, we'll talk about. Okay, so this is about binary large object data types. The next one is object data type. It is a generic type, right? So till now we were discussing about the data types which were specific, right? So integer, we can store only integer value. String, we can store only string value, right? But there is this another base generic data type which allows us to store data any value, okay? Which allows us to store any data type value inside the variable, okay? So we can create, a reference of the object data type and then assign any value to it. So that is also there. All primitive data types has been represented in the form of classes. Okay. Yeah, this point is very important. See, when I say double, it doesn't mean double is some reserved keyword or something like that. No, it is a class. It is a class in our Apex. So let me show you that one. Yeah, let's go to our developer console. Yeah, let's open an anonymous window. So here, if you see string, so here, if you see string, when I type string, it is giving me some keyword, right? So in string class, I have these many classes, this many methods in it. Okay, so string is a data type, which is a, kind of a class, which is defined within the Apex programming. Okay, so we don't need to write a class for our string class. It's already defined. So yeah, we are going to make use of the string class by instantiating an object of it. Okay, so whenever we try to create a value, we are actually creating an object of the type string class. Okay, so all these data types. So that's one of the method in the string class. Let's take example of integer, right? So in integer, we have these many methods already available. We can make use of it. Or yeah, If you go ahead with, let's say, blob. So in blob also we have some method size to PDF. So something like that, right? So all these primitive data types are classes in our Apex. Okay. So classes in the sense we can instantiate them and just use them. So those are not like a reserved keywords, I would say, but those are classes. Okay. So that's the important point which you need to understand. Right. So let's come to our next data type, that is S-object data types. So yes, till now we were discussing only any kind of simple data type, right? And S-object can also hold any type of data type. That's there. But object can hold any type of data type. And then comes our S-object type. So this is like, it holds one complete record. A record contains multiple fields, right? So the account name, account industry, and annual revenue, email, phone. So everything in one is one account record, right? So that particular account record we can store in an object called S-object data type. Okay. Right. These are used to store Salesforce object records inside the variable. Each Salesforce object has been represented in the form of a data type where object name and data type name both are identical. Okay. So here, when I say S object type, yeah, account object type. It's a type of S object type. Okay. So the object name is the data type name. That's what we call it, the S object type. Okay. So it is going to hold the complete record. Okay. Account, store only account record, right? Case can store only case records. So S object store any Salesforce object record. So S object can hold any Salesforce object records. Okay. Yeah, we will discuss more on this S object type while we are doing our programming, because that's where you can understand it in more clear. Okay. Right. So next comes our variable. Right. So let's go to our Paint. Okay, so the scenario is like this. Suppose I'm going with a general analogy first. Yeah. So let's say I have an interview scheduled for tomorrow with, let's say, TCS. Okay. And they asked me to come to their office. Okay. So when I say TCS in Hyderabad, we have multiple offices, right? So in that case, if they tell me it's in high tech city, so that also won't give me more details, right? So they will have to give me the complete address, right? So that's where I can find out the office and then go there to attend my interview. So similarly, if I just define a variable, right? So this is going to be a memory allocation in my server. Okay. So whenever I define any kind of thing, so I'm just giving the starting position on my memory address. Okay. So it will be denoted making use of like hexadecimal number systems, which will starts like 0x, something like that. So if you say uh, customer name, so I'm going to store that in a string customer name, and that is going to be stored in this particular address. So here, if you see the hexadecimal address of this customer name, 0x some XYZ. Okay. So if you say I can remember that, yes, that's fine. But we will have in real time scenario, we will have multiple fields with multiple data types in it. So we are not going to remember that. So that's where we have come across something called variables. So we are going to define a variable, and this variable is going to hold the memory location address of it. Okay, so that's where we are going to define our variable. So variable is nothing but a name to be allocated to the memory location in order to locate a value. So variables are used to store the values temporarily during application execution. So these are not going to store permanently. These are going to store temporarily. Okay. And Apex is a tightly coupled programming language where variables should be defined before its usage. Yeah, we know that point. So this is syntax for our variable definition. So access specifier, data type, variable name equals to value. While defining variables, we have the below rules. So variable name should be in a meaningful format. Follow the camel case to define the variables. Starts with a small letter and the next letter onwards, it will follow the capital letter. So camel case means, let's see, integer and customer code. So this is what the first letter will be in the small letter, followed by the next word. First letter will be in the capital letter. So this is called camel case. So we are going to follow that while defining the variables in Apex. Okay, so we have different types of cases like camel case, Pascal case, kebab case, so something like that. So yeah, we'll discuss that. For defining the variables, you need to remember we are following the camel case. So first letter, and it should be a meaningful word instead of in other programming languages you say X or Y or Z, something like that. So instead of that, we are going to write in Apex the meaningful words for defining our variables. Okay. Variable name does not have any spaces. It should always single word, right? So if you want to have a space, you can use underscore or something. Yep. We can use special characters in the variable name, that's underscore, right? So this is an example: integer customer code, integer customer age, string customer name, and string contact address, decimal balance amount, date, birth date, Boolean is active. So for different types of um, requirement, we are using different data types, right? So here you can ask me a question like integer, string. Yeah. Can we define them in one single line? Yes, we can do it, separated by commas, and each line of code in Apex ends with semicolon. So that we have to remember. We can define multiple variables in the same single statement. Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so integer, product code, and quantity, two different variables. Okay, if the user did not assign any value to the variable, yeah, let's go to our paint again. So I have defined this particular variable, let's say. Okay, so integer customer code, I have defined it and I haven't assigned any value to this variable. So in that case, what my Apex is going to do is it is going to store a value called null in the memory location. So by default, if we do not assign any value to our variable, it's going to store null value. Okay, so that's the basic behavior. If the user doesn't assign any value for the variable, then Apex will store the default value as null. Okay, right. So let's go assigning the variables. Yeah. So once the variable has been defined, we can assign a value to the variable, and based on the value assigned, so we will, if it is string, we will have to enclose it between single quotes, right? And yeah. So once variable has been defined with the associated data type, we can store the value inside the variable name, value, product code 500342. So yeah. And so as soon as I assign a value to this customer code, so what is going to happen is this particular null value is going to be replaced, and my actual customer code is going to be stored like 3000123, something like that. Okay, so the null value is getting replaced, and so what is happening in the background is when we are defining variables, what it says, that particular integer customer code, when we define, what happens is this integer class tells it to the Apex um, runtime, saying that can you please allocate so and so amount of memory for my variable called customer code. Okay, so since it's of type integer type, it's going to be how many bytes? 4 bytes of memory, right? So if it is string, it's 1 byte for initially, but based on the string, yeah. Right, so as soon as I assign value, the null value is going to be replaced, and the actual assigned value is going to be stored in my particular memory location. Okay, so this is what happens in the background whenever we declare a variable, whenever we assign values to a variable. We can assign values for the variables during the definition. Yes, we can do that. So we can define integer employee code and then assign the value equals to the code employee age equals to 32, the age string. So by comma separated values, we can define multiple variables of same type. Okay, integer type, we can define multiple variables here if we know that we are going to use those variables in our program. Okay, string, within single line we can define. This way we can reduce the number of lines of code. Okay, right? So this is how we what a variable is called, how it is reserving the memory address for the variable, and how it is going to assign the initial value as null, and how it is going to replace the null value when we are assigning a value to that variable. Yeah, this is what happens in the background whenever we declare and assign a value to the variables. Okay, so yes, so next comes our operators. So we have like 5 types of operators. So yeah, these operators are, so 5 types: arithmetic, relational operators, logical operators, incremental, decremental, and assignment operators. So these are the 5 types of operators which we are going to discuss. Yeah, which we have in our Apex programming. Okay, operator is a symbol which is uh, which performs operations on the operands. Okay, so operands, when I say, so if you take an example here, 9,000 plus 23,000. So 9,000 and 23,000 are called operands, and plus is called operator. Okay, so the operators are used to are going to perform the operation on the operands. Okay, right? So arithmetic operators, we have plus, minus, multiplication, division, and then modulus. Okay, so these are the operators, arithmetic operators. We have arithmetic or mathematical operators, which as we have in any other programming language. Okay, so hope you are aware of this. Yes. Right. So let me take a small example of my, let's say 5 divided by 2. And we have mod function also, right? Math.mod of 5 comma 2, let's say. Okay, excuse me for this writing, but yeah, with this pencil we can write this way only. Right, so anyone knows what's like, what is the output of this one, this operation, and what is the output of this operation? Anyone knows? So this is the division operator and this is the modulus operator. So yeah, in Apex, we do not have this percentage operator. Instead of that, we are going to make use of the math class function. So math is a class where we have multiple functions in it, the methods in it, which we are going to make use of it. Okay. So anyone, any difference? What is the difference of this one and this one? Okay. So yeah, this is normal division operation where it is going to give us the quotient. So the value will be 2, whereas math.mod function is going to return the remainder value that is going to be 1. So if you see 5 divided by 2, so yeah, 2 2s are 4, and we have a remainder 1, right? So division operation, it is going to return the quotient, whereas modulus operation, it is going to return the remainder. So that's the difference between these two operators. Okay. Yeah. So as part of arithmetic or mathematical operators, we have a class called math, which we are going to make use of it with the help of multiple functions in it. Yeah, let's go ahead and see. Right? So we have multiple functions, methods in it. If you see, let me expand. Right? So you can see this, right? Absolute, a cos, a sine, a tan. So many mathematical functions, floor, exponents, max, mod, pi. So multiple functions, multiple mathematical functions. So yes, Salesforce has given us this, mm, you know, feature called intelligence. That means, you don't need to remember all these method names, but you just go ahead and type this math dot, and then you will see all the available methods in that particular math class. Okay. So we are going to make use of these all these methods wherever required based on the business requirement. Okay. So that's about the arithmetic or mathematical operators. Okay. Right. So let's go ahead and see. Next one is relational operators. So relational operators are the operators which are like comparing things, right? Less than or equal to, greater than or equals to, double equals to, not equals to, and equals. Okay. So these are going to, compare two different things, or comparison operators, we call it. Yeah, relational operators. Or it is going to check whether those two values which are on the left side and the right side are equal or not. Okay. So here, if you see, what is the difference of this double equals to and the equals function? Okay, so that I want to discuss, because this is one of the interview question in any interviews usually. Okay, so let's go to our paint. So we are discussing something called our double equals to and equals. Okay, so what is the difference between these two? That's one of the important interview question which I wanted to discuss. Right. So here, let's take an example of, right. So if you see, These are the two operators which have, and these are the two words. So in double equals to, it is going to do a comparison called as text comparison, whereas in the equals method, it is going to do comparison called as binary comparison. Okay, that's the difference. Ignore the spelling. Yeah. So the difference is like it's going to do the equals to operator is going to compare text and then return the value based on the comparison. Whereas the equals method, it's going to do the binary comparison, which compares the binary values, and then based on the comparison, it is going to return the result. Okay, so when I say text comparison here, if you see, if we use welcome is equals to welcome if with the condition if condition, so it's going to check first, it is going to check the number of characters. So both are 7 characters each. Yeah, it is good. Then it is going to dig a deeper level. So it's going to compare so my W with, yeah. So that W is going to be compared with this W, and it is going to ignore the case. It is just checking the whether that character is same or not. So W is equals to W, yes. So it's going to compare E is equals to E, yes. Then L is equals to L, yes. Then C, and then O, right? M, and then the last is your E. So it compares character by character, and when it is equal, as these are equal, so it is going to move on to till the end of that particular string. And then, yes, both the characters, both the strings are equal. So it is going to return a value called true. I mean, it is going to return true because both the strings are same. Okay. It was ignoring something called the uppercase or lowercase, right? So this is the double equals to operator. So when it comes to our equals method, so it is going to actually compare the not the actual character values, but the ASCII code of that particular character. Okay, so that's where the binary comparison comes into picture. So when I say ASCII code, you can Google it. You will find the ASCII code for equivalent for our alphabets. So yeah, if you see that ASCII codes, yeah, the capital W ASCII code will be different and small w ASCII code will be different. Okay. So while comparing, when those ASCII codes are compared again, so ASCII codes, when I say, let's say A has an ASCII code value of like 65. So let's say the ASCII code of A is 65. Okay. So again, this 65, it is going to write in the binary format. Okay. Like zeros and ones, 10010, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. You know this, right? Hoping you know. Right. So so this 65 is going to write in the binary format, and then that binary format, it is going to compare one by one. The first digit one is it the same one? Is it the same zero? So obviously for W, it's a different ASCII code, and for small lowercase w, it's a different ASCII code. So it is going to return false. So that is the difference between double equal to operator and equals function. So this is the major difference between these two comparison operators. So it is going to uh, return two different outputs, right? So here, if you see the equals to operator, it's doing the text comparison, whereas our equals function is doing the binary comparison. So that's where the output is differed. Okay, so this is one of the important interview question because that's where I wanted to discuss in detail, right? So yeah, depends on our scenario. We are going to use these two different comparison operators based on our requirements. So if we need to go with a binary comparison, we will go with equals function. If not, we are going to go with double equals operator, right? So if you see, right, we had a equals function also. Okay. Right. So this is about the relational operators. Yeah. So let's go ahead with the next operators, the logical operators. It's again the same, and or not, and is denoted with ampersand, ampersand, or is denoted with pipe, double pipes, and not is denoted with an exclamation. So these are the same our logical operators like in any case. So if we need both the operations to be true, and then only we need to proceed, operand 1 and operand 2. That's what we are going to give in our condition. Or if we want any one of them is to be true, so we are going to use or. So if we are comparing or doing some kind of operation, so we can also use not. Okay, so these are the basic operators. Yeah, we will be writing a small code later. Next one is the increment and decrement operators. So these operators will be same as our any other programming language like in our C or Java. So we were using this, right? Incremental or decremental operators. Okay, so plus plus, it adds a value +1, or minus minus, it decrements the value by -1. So it will increment value by 1. That's where it is called incremental operator. Integer a customer age is equals to 32. Customer age plus plus, for the next iteration, I want to increment it. That's where I written customer age plus plus. So the value of 32 is going to be added with 1, that is 33. So decrement operators, it will decrement by 1. Integer service left, so 8, and then service left minus minus. So it's going to decrement its value by 1. The output is 7. Okay, so these are basic operators which we can use in our programming. Okay, so the next is the assignment operators. So these are the assignment operators which are going to, um, increment, decrement, or do whatever operation we want. Equals to, plus equals to, minus equals to, multiply equals to, or divide equals to, right? So this one, hope you know this particular type of notation, plus equals to. When I say integer balance amount 25,000, balance amount minus equals to 3,000, that means balance. This in turn means, so this means like, this is the thing. Balance plus equals to minus equals to 3,000 means balance amount equals to balance amount minus 3,000. So this is the meaning. This is the meaning of this one, minus equals to. So balance amount equals to balance amount minus 3,000. That means 25,000 minus 3,000. That is 22,000. So plus equals to means balance amount equals to balance amount plus 5,000. That is 25,000 plus 5,000. Okay, they are taking the output from here. Okay, so 27,000 plus the 22,000 plus 5,000, 27,000. Okay, right. So this is a normal arithmetic assignment operators. Okay, let's go to our, right. So this is our anonymous window where we can write our code. Uh, right. Object data type also we have, and we have something called decimal. So in the decimal class, we have all these functions within us, and math class we have done. See, in the real time scenario, we are going to work more on the string as well as the math. So these are the two important classes or the data types, which we are going to make use, of the operators of the functions which are present in the particular classes. Okay, right. All right. So this is for, yeah, we will discuss more about, so about how we are going to execute mm, Apex code and all those things in the next class. Yeah, let me go to our agenda. Right. So we discussed till the operators. So we will talk about output statements. What are the output statements we have in Apex? And then we will be writing a few small snippets of code in the tomorrow's class. And then we will go ahead with the conditional statements. You know the conditional statements, right? If, do, while, do while. Okay, so all these conditional statements and then the iterative statements for loops, while loops, right? So all these are very important because this will help us in writing uh, a very good Apex code. So we need to know complete basics of each one of these, and that's where we can write a clean code in Apex. Okay, so that's where we are going a little slow on dealing each one of this in detail. And yeah, in between a couple of interview questions, which are important. Okay, so this can be like theoretical, but a little tricky, right? Okay, so yeah, today we have discussed the data types. So how many data types? The integer, string, boolean, id, date, time, date time, and I have shown you this date time uh, is a data type which is used in our created field and last modified, right? Yeah, so this field is being used. So integer, then long, decimal, double. So these are all depends on the scenario. So decimal can also reference to our percent data type in configuration, and decimal can also reference our currency also. So it depends on the scenario. So multiple data types are referencing in multiple different data types within the configuration. Okay, so you need to understand the business case, the scenario, and then act based on that. And blob data type, binary large objects, and then object data type, s object data types. Okay, so yeah, variables, we have discussed what is a variable and how we can assign a value to the variable. And then comes our operators. So yes, all the 5 types of operators: arithmetic, relational, logical, incremental, and assignment operators. So in that, the major thing is we don't have the percentage in Apex, so we are using the modulus function. And here, if you see equals to and equals function, what is the difference? We have discussed it, and we have discussed divided by and modulus operation. What's the difference? Yeah. And then the increment, yeah, increment operators, assignment operators, these are the regular operations which we perform on our um, code on just like any other in any other programming language. Okay, right. So yeah, this is for today's class. So we will be discussing on output statements and conditional statements along with writing few snippets of code in tomorrow's class. Okay, yeah. These are needed in detail because this will help in writing. We will have many classes writing the Apex programs. Okay, so that's where these are very important. Yeah, I would ask you go in detail with each and everything and then understand things. That would be easy for us to write the programs in Apex. Okay. All right. Yeah. That is all for today's class. We'll meet tomorrow. Until then, have a good day. Take care. Bye.